Good evening and welcome to this edition of the IslandStats.com Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Baisden. Joining me, I have Connor White and Daniel Phillips. I'm hoping that my co-host, Jason Juggling J. Ford, will join, as well as Remy Coddington. I have, as I've already indicated, Connor White from cycling, Daniel Phillips from tennis. But tonight we wanted to give these young men an opportunity, in their words, to talk about their journey in trying to be a professional in their sport. Everybody's road is different. We always look at the champions and we'll use tennis, Daniel, Wimbledon, US Open, the four majors. And Connor, for you, obviously everybody looks at the Tour de France, the team championships and so forth. But the lead up to all these events, trying to become a professional in your sport. That's what we want to talk about tonight. And I'm going to start with you, Daniel, because leaving Bermuda at a young age, and when I say a young age, you was probably
11, 10 years old.
Sport. What's that?
11, 10 years old, I think, roughly around. When I went to Spain.
In your sport, you were young. In body stature, you were still young. And in your mind, you were probably still young.
Yes.
Knowing what you know now, what name two things you would have liked to have known when you initially left that would have helped you to be even further than what you are today?
Two things. Well, for sure, I think it was the commitment to the sport that you're playing, whether it be cycling, tennis, or roughly any other sport in general. Just the commitment to telling yourself that this is what you're going to do. You're going to dedicate your life to doing the sport. I think that's one of the biggest things, if not the biggest. The second thing I think it will be I want to say the seriousness aspect of it, because obviously you planned your tours, your tournaments and stuff, and you go there to have fun, but you got to remember you're flying to all these places, doing your job. You know, if that's for me playing for a week in Guatemala, Puerto Rico, Panama, anywhere, I have to be serious all week, pushing throughout. So, or if that's doing a cycling race somewhere in a country, you have to be serious all throughout, giving professional activities such as going earlier to bed, eating the right things, getting the correct amount of sleep. There's all these little things help towards the factor of you going pro in your sport, or just going pro in general.
Mm. And Connor, I'm going to ask you a similar question, but Daniel brings up a good point when he starts to talk about the seriousness of it. When you would have left Bermuda, your ambitions, I mean, okay, so you really enjoyed cycling, but getting into an environment of wanting to become a professional cyclist is a step up. So what are two things from your first initial international event abroad? What are two things that you would have liked to have known or changed that would have helped you to be a better rider today?
Well, my first international race was during my first year of university. So I was 17 at the time, so I was only like a year into riding full time. Well, not full time, but actually training and going out multiple times a week to do training rides. So I was, I don't know, a month and a half into my first year of uni. So I was kind of trying to split my time between focusing on riding and focusing on school. So I kind of just went in there with my first event with no expectations. Like I was serious, like I was there to race, but I had no idea what it was about, no idea how I compared to the rest of the. It was a Caribbean Championship, so no idea how I compared to the rest of the Caribbean Championships. So it was just like, yeah, it was just an eye-opening experience to see like how we compared, how all the events worked, how your pre-race meals went, how travel affected your racing, because sometimes we get there too late and you probably feel bad the next day. So it's just experience. Like the first one isn't always going to go well, but that's how you start learning. Like I had to go to the first one to be able to go to all the other ones I've been to. So
Right.
yeah, it was a good experience, and yeah, seriousness is definitely a big part of it.
Mm.
And I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, I tried to act professional, but I was 17 at the time. I was just started racing, so
Yeah.
as professional as that a 17-year-old can act.
Sure. So let me ask this question because I think it's vital now. Both of you probably were outstanding in Bermuda, and probably either one or two at the time. But when you get out into the quote unquote other world and you're not as dominant as you thought you were, or as good as you thought you were playing in Bermuda, how much of your mental aspect changes? Not don't. I mean, I'm not concerned about the physicality part. I'm talking about the mental, because if you're used to winning in a place like Bermuda, but then you go abroad, and Daniel, in your case, I can't even get out of the qualifiers, and Connor, for your sake, I can't even become in the top 120. What does that do to the mental part of your sport and you yourself? And I'll let you answer first, Connor.
So I mean, yeah, when you're always winning at home, you gotta. I mean, I always thought of it as, I mean, I'm from a small island, 60,000 people. Of course, you're a big fish in a small pond, but you go overseas, and I mean, the cycling community in the entire world is absolutely massive. So you kind of got to be realistic and be like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be the best in the world or the best at even close to the best when you go overseas. So I always took the mindset of you're always going to race someone faster than you. So it kind of pushes you. I always found there's a ceiling in Bermuda that you can reach, and once you get there, you don't really get much higher. You kind of have to go overseas and continue racing people or playing against people that are better than you. Because if you're the best and no one else on the island is better than you, you're not really going to get any better if you have no one else to beat. So, I mean, there's that part, and then there's also the part of you go overseas and you think you're fast, and then you get dropped in the first climb, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm not as fast as I thought. And it could do two things. It can make you demoralize you and make you not want to race anymore, or it can make you train harder. It's all about how your mindset is.
Sure. And Daniel, for you, your sport's a little different, where Connor would be in a race where it could be 180 to 200 bikes. You're playing an opponent across the court in a qualifier, and you know your ability, but here comes this other guy who brings out this racket that looks like it's about 10 years old. He doesn't even look the part.
Yeah.
How much of that works on your psyche?
So being such a young age, just traveling, being in Spain for 4 or 5 years, and being over in England, and then transferring to Florida, and then after in Florida, when I got to the age of 16, 17, when I thought it was right to go play my ITFs, I have to travel to these countries like Colombia, Guatemala, Panama, all these different countries, where then, you have to play qualifying. But I look at against these kids who probably don't take it as serious as you, probably is not as committed as you are. But I just see this as another opponent, no matter who I play. I see it, same seriousness, same attitude, same mentality going to the court. Go do what you have to do, and just like show up for every point, every set, every match, and fight. You got to fight. But I saw a little bit when I was playing Guatemala when I went to the qualifiers because I didn't sign in, and I just don't let it affect me. I don't let it affect me because I know that these kids may only play once or twice a week, 3 times a week, and I'm training in an academy, roughly playing 2 times a day plus fitness and physio. So I just try and focus on knowing what I can do, not living to anyone else's expectations, but knowing that in myself I can do what I can do, and I could be happy with that. That's just how I go into my matches and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad both of you have been open thus far to that, because I think a lot of people not only just the players, but a lot of people, and when I say parents, have this full sense of just how good their young athlete is, and
Yeah.
you can get drawn in to that full sense sort of, oh yeah, you're good until I see you up against your peers in
Yeah.
team. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I know this as an athlete, one of the things, and competed internationally, one of the things that used to aggravate me the most was even in sitting in our changing rooms, we're better than these guys. You know, we look better, we feel better, we
Yeah.
dress better.
Hmm.
The sleeping giant is the guy that don't have the gear because he's working towards it by beating you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to start to understand where our challenges are. Because again, Daniel, at the age of what, 9, 10, you were beating senior men.
Yeah.
Connor, when you weren't in cycling long, but all of a sudden here was Connor White right on the heels of the Dominiques of you and Caden were battling, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, so where these guys come from? But then you have to get out in that real world. So Daniel, let me ask you, when the decision was made for you to go to the Rafa Nadal Academy, you were probably 11, 12, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 11.
Okay. When that decision was made, how much of the influence of wanting to do what you was hoping to accomplish was up to you? Because, and it's important to know how much of the conversation you was involved in.
Of my decision going to the
Yes.
Rockmell Academy.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So I did go there earlier to scope out the area of being in Spain for my first time in Mallorca, and yeah, I was at a summer camp for 2 weeks where I fell in love with the place, the coaches, the whole Rockmell Academy staff. They wanted me back, and I got over there and I saw the tennis level. I saw the what being outside Bermuda has to offer. Being honest, because like Connor said, you can only get so far in Bermuda to where you have to get outside of the world, like expectations and all these other things. So yeah, I went there, and when we came back, my mom asked me the question because we were visiting other places across
Mhm.
the world and looking at Millfield, other boarding schools or other like academies, and yeah, she sat me down. We kind of had a talk about, are you fine going to Spain by yourself? Are you fine starting this new like world because you love tennis that much? And I was like, yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it. I don't want to go back at all. I just want to go. I just want to go and just start experiencing the world, really. So it was kind of, we all sat together and decided what would be best.
So let me ask you, how important personally did you feel that conversation was for you? Because obviously you were going to be the one that's going to be over in Spain, away from
Yeah.
your family, all by
Yeah.
yourself. You were going to be the one that's going to have to go through the drills and the skills and
Yeah.
everything all by yourself. You were going to be the one who was going to be having to figure out a language barrier all by yourself. So how grateful were you that you were able to sit down with your family to have this conversation?
I want to say I'm very grateful to have the conversation, to be, for me as a young kid, 11 years old, going to a whole other culture community across the side of the world, like is in Spain and America. We're not used to the food, the language, don't know how to speak it, how to get around young and stuff. But having the conversation with my mom and like my coaches and my team reassured me that yeah, I'm just happy to have the chance. So some kids don't even have the chance to go to these places. I was happy. I'm grateful to have the chance to go compete, train, and like with my fellow peers, obviously from Off-Dal Academy. And yeah, I was obviously nervous and scared in the beginning, but getting there over time, Spain was very welcoming, the people, the academy, everything. So and I fell in love with the place. So yeah, again, trying new things, new experience, you're nervous, but then sooner or later it's gonna click and you're gonna feel at home again.
Sure. So Connor, I'm going to take a commercial break, but when I come back, I'm going to sort of ask you the same questions because although it's cycling, it's a little different. It's individual, it's team, it's unique. So I want you to be able to talk about those conversations that you had with your family as well as making that next step at a young age. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, Connor, one of the things that we often overlook in a sport such as cycling is that you sign on to a team. So it's a team event. Although it's individual, it's a team event. Knowing that you're going into a team environment at a young age, what was those initial conversations like with your family? Because here you're going to be, whether it be Europe, Canada, USA, wherever it's going to be, Connor White was going to be the lone Bermudian.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as young as Daniel was because I didn't really start racing internationally until I was 17. And at that point, I was already off island. I'd already been off island because I was at university. So it was a little bit different. It was kind of just everything just fell into place, especially until this last year. My main focus was just finishing my degree at school. So I wasn't really with the team full time, and still aren't really with the team full time. It doesn't really work like that with cycling. You don't spend all your time with the team. But I was kind of just I wanted to finish my degree, so I graduated June 2021, and then so this year I rode for a team in the U.S. But I wasn't the sole Bermudian. Nick Narrowway was also.
Yes, Nick was with you. Yes.
But he was in school, so he wasn't racing as much as I was. But it was cool because we have like team camps, so that's when you spend all your time with your team. So I was with my team for 2 weeks, and Nick was there as well. So there was two Bermudians. But I mean, as far as having the conversation with my parents at a young age, it didn't really happen the same as Daniel because I could kind of make the decision for myself because my team was offering support, and yes, I was still counting on support from my parents, but having finished my degree, I think I had a bit more willingness to let me focus on cycling full time, rather than say leaving school to do cycling and then go back, but probably not end up going back. So yeah, it was a bit different, but it was still conversations that were had that led to me being full time riding.
Sure. So I want to say something about your height, Connor.
Yeah.
Here's this over 6 foot guy, not even interested in a paddle bike a few years ago. Then all of a sudden, you're on this bike making a lot of noise of who you are. What got you involved seriously into the sport of cycling?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always ridden a bike as a kid. I had a BMX
Mhm.
bike growing up. Robin Horsfield and I, mountain biker, we were neighbors. We would make jumps. We would mountain bike around, but I never took it seriously as like a sport, just as a hobby. But when I was 14 or 15, I started doing the Fat Tire Massive mountain bike
Mhm.
series,
Mhm.
and I was just doing that every 2 weeks. I wasn't really training. I'd go out for fun rides with my friends. But then one day, I think it was after the Admiralty House race in 2015, Peter Dunn was like, "Hey, you want to come and train with us?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a road bike." And he goes, "Well, I have a road bike for you to ride." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to be a road cyclist. I just want a mountain bike." But eventually, he convinced me to go, and I went, did some training, did the Grand Prix when we had that a few years ago. My first
Mhm.
it was April 2016, and I liked it. So then I got my own bike, kept training, and then one thing led to another, and I had a very, I would say when you first get into cycling, it's like an exponential curve. Well, not an exponential curve, but you get fast very quickly, and then
Mhm.
you, as time goes on, you make smaller and smaller gains, as with any sort of sport.
Mhm.
So I got pretty good, pretty fast. But I mean, probably genetics had something to play in that. Both my parents were athletes, so and I was always an athlete. I did almost every sport in high school,
Mm.
so I knew like what it took to be a good athlete because I was always doing sports. But I went and shifted my focus to one sport only, and yeah, so that's how I got into it and where I am now.
Sure. Now I'm going to revert to Daniel, because Daniel, there was a time you couldn't even see over the top of the net, innit?
There was a time. And then slowly got a little bit taller and taller.
Sure. But being a small guy in stature, because you were small for the longest while. If anybody sees you now, but saw you, what would I would say about 8 years ago, they'd say, "Well, okay, how are we going to get this guy to hit the ball over the net?" You know what I mean? Just the growth part of it. How much of that of the work you put in to improve the body, improve the range of hitting motion, all of that comes into play because tennis is such a technical sport.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, as you said, I was kind of small when I was young, and then obviously when I went to Spain, I grew up for the next 4 years. I went to growth spurt after growth spurt, problems with my knee, a little my back, a little. But yeah, but for that, I think just the taller I got, the more I had to kind of just keep up with everything, such as fitness, eating. I just had to do everything just a little bit more and more and more. Because then I realized there's at some point where I realized that I wasn't eating enough. Because then I realized, because of how much tennis players burns calories wise on the court, it's ridiculous how much we should be eating off court. And I just wasn't doing this. And I kind of tackled that problem. And then another problem was then after stretching after every practice, is if not, then you're going to start getting injured and stuff, like maybe in my shoulder, maybe been partly the reason, not enough mobility, flexibility and stuff. So, yeah, but as growth of my actual tennis game, I think me getting to like my height in the sixes, 6'2", 6 something, I think it kind of helped me develop my big serve to start the point. Obviously, at an advantage, or the forehand where I could just crack it down, no longer have to look over the net. But yeah, it helped me a lot in doubles, I want to say, and yeah, it's better. I think in the sport of tennis, being over 6'2" or just being around that height, it gives you a big advantage from the opponents.
Definitely. So let me ask you, did you ever doubt yourself when you were this small kid and it didn't look like you was going to be what you are today kind of thing? Because
Yeah.
you were small for the longest while, kid.
I was, but no, I have faith. I have faith because you just the only thing you had to keep when you're that small. But I know I kind of always knew because for in my life I went through growth spurt stages. I think now I kind of slowed down a little bit, but all throughout my teen years, my young years, I'll be small, and then I come back one summer, I just gained a crazy amount of height. A lot of it is just, and yeah, I just think for anyone, I feel like it's different. Maybe some people just don't grow until they start turning 18, 17 late, or some people just grow early and then kind of mellow out. I mean, it really depends on the person, I want to say.
And you mentioned something earlier that I'm going to ask Connor and then come back to you about, and that is the understanding eating habits of a professional, from an amateur to professional. Once you get into a professional setup, pretty much everything is regimented for you. What you should be eating, when you should be eating, how much calories you should be burning in between those meals. So Connor, when that was first introduced to you, was it a shock to your system?
What? How many calories I should be eating? Or how many
Yeah, when they broke it down for you, because they say your height, your weight, and then all the RPMs that you're pushing through in a training and in a race and all that. They break it right down for you. So were you shocked what they told you should be, how many times you should be eating and exactly what you should be eating?
Well, kind of. I mean, a lot of my eating and calorie and stuff I've done my own research on. Never had a nutritionist. I've never had someone tell me what to eat. I just kind of do it on my own. And I've done enough research now to know how much I should be eating, when I should be eating, what I should be eating. And I mean, my computer that I use for my bike, like that uses two metrics. Well, it uses a lot of metrics, but two main metrics are heart rate and power output. It can gauge pretty accurately how many calories I burn on the ride. So I know, say today I rode for 2 hours and I burned 1,500 calories. So I need to be eating on top of my BMR, my basal metabolic rate, about 2,000. I need to probably, you don't have to eat a complete extra 1,500, but I should probably eat around 3,000 to 3,200 a day just to maintain my weight. But because cycling is weight is a big aspect of cycling, and that can lead to a lot of negative things, but I won't talk about that. But so for right now, I'm just doing a lot of base, and I'm not racing for another 2 months or so maybe less, but I'm not too worried about being at race weight because every cyclist has their ideal race weight that they want to be at. I'm rarely ever there because I found through trial and error over the years that if I get too light, I lose performance. So it's a fine line. You want to be able to perform at your highest level, but also be as light as you can.
Right.
When I race in the US, like, for example, Caden and Nick, they're over in Europe and they're doing a lot of races with a lot of climbing. So weight plays a bigger part, but a lot of the races I do in the US don't have much in it. So weight isn't as important. But you still have to eat. You still have to eat right. Protein intake, especially because you're breaking down your muscles every day. Eating a lot of protein. So that's what I mainly focus on. Is just getting in the protein and then.
Sure. So Daniel, I'm going to ask you because you said you was at the Nadal camp 2 weeks prior to them offering you to come back and be lodged and all. Eating habits. And no, I'll always go back. You're 11 years old. So what they're planning to feed you isn't always what in your mind you've been brought up on to sustain you. So how did you adjust to that?
Yeah, so when I was at Spain, come within beginning of the year to end of the year to see your body fat, to see just your weight and where you'll be at, and then they'll keep daily checkups to see if you've been like hitting your goals, if you've been doing like your fitness right, if you've just been keeping up with with the program, obviously. And I
Right.
felt now that I'm in America and stuff, and I'm like kind of doing it, living on my own, older, doing all these things, I kind of have to do it myself with my cooking and stuff. So then I just try and also with my fitness, he try and gives me tips and things. Having a protein shake after you have a workout, or obviously after tennis, after just to regain some of that, to recover your muscles for the next training or competition. So my main thing right now is to eat a bunch of carbs, a bunch of protein, and keep my vegetables up to a high, and keep roughly to 4 meals a day. I think I need 4 meals a day for more calories. Yeah.
Farmers, be aware. Connor and Daniel need your products. We're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk challenges and setbacks, injuries, well, and so many more things. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Connor, let me ask you about the first niggling injury you would have had. And I want to say internationally, because, I mean, you guys ride through so much on Ireland, and I'm mesmerized every time I see you guys on the road. But talk to me
I'm sorry, I don't know
about...
if you can hear me right now through my phone.
Yeah, we can hear you. Your camera's
I don't know why it's my screen is lagging. I'll be right back. I'm sorry. Let me fix
Okay,
it.
no worries. But Connor, just the injuries. Injuries are physical, but when you're in a racing mood, when you're in competition mood, it's more mental at times, isn't it? Because you're although you're physically not able to get back out there, you mentally want to be involved because that's what you go for, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, injuries are a big part of cycling, but not like you don't really. Cycling is very low impact, so I haven't really had any nagging issues. Like runners, they get strained, they get like shin splints and all that from running.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, cycling, you don't really get too many of those types of injuries. I mean, I've had a small knee issue for years, but it doesn't bother me when I run my ride, so that hasn't affected me too much. But the main sort of injuries you get are when you come off your bike and get into it,
Mm.
which luckily for me have only happened, I guess unluckily, but I've only happened a couple times. It could have been a lot more, but yeah, you can get really severely injured. You can get road rash. I got a lot of road rash, but luckily I haven't broken it. Knock on wood, I haven't broken any bones cycling. But a lot of cyclists, when they crash, you might break a collarbone.
Mm.
When you break a collarbone, you cannot ride. Like you can maybe ride a stationary trainer, but you can't ride on the road for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's tough because say you're mid-season, and I haven't personally experienced it, but I have friends and other cyclists that I know that have experienced it.
Mm.
And yeah, if you're full race mode, you're ready to go, and you can't get on the bike, that's pretty tough to mentally go through because you just all your whole team's out there racing, and you just want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a lot of physical being injured, but it's also pretty tough mentally.
Sure. And Daniel, for you, I mean,
Yeah.
you would have been injured probably each year as you were going through the growing spurts.
Yeah.
And I would and to be honest, I mean, how quickly was it diagnosed that you were going through these growing spurts as opposed to that I've got a knee injury, I've got an ankle injury. It was more joint injuries than anything else. But how long was it before it was diagnosed as that?
Well, I don't know. I felt like I was telling my coaches and my things that my knees started hurting when I was like younger, so I had to get something taped around before I play. Even sometimes just running, I couldn't run because the impact of it was just too much for me, my knees. But I had to get something around my knee that I had to wear when I was playing and stuff, and that took off the load very much. And I had to strengthen a lot of my legs to hold, my new body that just got bigger. But my most recent injury was in my right shoulder and my tendon, my infus spinatus. I had micro tears from just overuse, I think, and not doing the proper physio, the proper fitness that I should be doing, or just stretching afterwards. Like just the little things. But yeah, I was out for 5 months. I was training, but I wasn't playing tournaments, and this was during my time, and I just started ITS, so it was all. I was obviously really down because I should have started. Because I'm gonna start this year roughly in the 200s or early 100s when I'll be 187, so it's looking good. But that hurts knowing that I was beating players or my friends and stuff that are now in the top 100, 90, 80 at these rankings. But then again, I feel like everything happens for a reason. Maybe that was their path, my path a little bit different. So right now, let's just stay as healthy as possible. And when I start this South American tour early next year, where I start in Costa Rica, then I go Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, my main goal is to stay as fit as possible, stay healthy, and just honestly give my body the correct treatment it needs.
Sure. Now you're ranked under 400.
Yeah. Earlier
I think it's 392. Was it 390? Well, I looked, I think yesterday, 392, something like that. But when you look at where you started and how long this journey's been, how much of your coaches are telling you, you have to be patient, Daniel. You have to be patient. This journey it's for the marathon, not for the sprint.
Yeah. Well, ever since really I've been in tennis, the famous quote, famous saying, even maybe calling it trust the process. You have to trust the process, and all times will get hard. Some weeks, some days, months, it won't be right playing. There'll always be something wrong. There'll always be something that you're not quite figuring out yet. And it will dig at you mentally, honestly, because I think sports is more 80% mental, 20% physical. Even tennis, I think it might be even higher, just with the drag and just always on to have to figure it out. And I think that's what causes a lot of kids to burn out, lose love for the sport. But no, for me, I have gone to at some points, but I always find my way back to tennis, just knowing where I come from and stuff. And right now, I just the place I could be mentally. I can't have no complaints.
Yeah. And Connor, for you, injury wise, I mean, we know you deal with a sport that reaches some high speeds, and in Bermuda, you're on the main roads. We had an incident on Sunday during the President's Cup, where a battle for fourth place was denied by a rider because an impatient, and I'll say it, an impatient motorist. It could have been far worse, but with you, injuries, setbacks, and all, how do you deal with it? And is it one of those things where you need to be in contact? I need to call him, and just so I can hear a voice that is recognizable, because when you're out there, you might be speaking to the team coach and the team doctor. Everybody else is speaking a totally different language at the time because you're frustrated, you're injured, you're laid up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to speak for that personally because it's never really happened.
And I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't either. I've never been forced off the bike due to injury for more than a week. I have had 2 pretty bad crashes, but the first one I had was just road rash. So that was just like, I mean, I think you were probably at that race at Fort Knox in 2019.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got pretty torn up from that, and that was just road rash. So it was just, I had to wait for it to heal a little bit. I was back riding 2 days later. I was at a stage race a week later, so that wasn't too tough. And I was also a bit different because I was on island when it happened. So, but I had another crash a year later when I was at a stage race in Santo Domingo in Dominican Republic, and I was on stage 1 of the race, and that was pretty tough because stage 1 of the race, I actually got knocked unconscious by a motorbike, and I had to withdraw from the race, and it wasn't my choice,
right?
Because I woke up in the back of a car taking me to the hospital.
Yes.
So I couldn't continue, and I was in a foreign country. When I first woke up, I was in a car with only people that spoke Spanish, and my Spanish was very good, and I had no idea where I was, where my team was. So that was like, I just had a traumatic event, and then also I was unaware of where I was going, and so that was pretty tough. I was calling back home pretty much the whole night that night. But luckily I was only off the bike for about a week after that race too. So, and I was also in school, so I went home early, went back to school. I had a stationary trainer set up there, so I was able to get back to training pretty quickly. I didn't really have any severe injuries, just probably a minor concussion, which can be severe. But yeah, so I personally haven't had anything too severe happen, and I'm hoping it won't go further. But yeah, it's always nice to have people to call back at home.
Sure. So Daniel, I'm coming back to you because one of the things that we often talk about is those setbacks.
Those injuries.
Yeah, and being so young, and I'm only surmising you would have gotten injuries when you were 10, 11, but you say, oh, that just hurts right there, I'll be okay at a young age. But as you get older, they have to be taken care of. So, and
it's not just one thing so much.
Yeah, one thing about, I know both you and Connor, you're competitive, so you always want to be out taking part.
Keep going.
Yeah,
totally agree.
When you have those injuries, how much pressure do you put on yourself to ensure that, okay, I'm going to sit on the sideline because I have to sit on the sideline, and I don't want to do nothing silly that's going to actually extend my sideline stay?
Yeah, well, the main thing I can say for an athlete, and I've been injured, 5 months, fractured my ankle, was out really for 6 months. It's just it takes a toll on you mentally. You kind of feel broken in a way, not doing what you want to do the most, watching everyone just keep playing, keep getting better and better, and you have to rest and heal day in, day out, and it's just it's hard mentally. But then again, that also, it shows you how much you miss and love the sport again. It shows you that this is what I want to do, this is what that you want to do, this is what that is your job, and like you want it for the rest of your life. And honestly, that's the way how I look at it when I was injured. it pushes me to go further. Actually, I start asking questions to myself, like, what am I looking out of tennis? What am I looking to do with tennis? What type of pro am I going to be? What type of role model am I going to be? So yeah, it's just I try and use it as just gas to keep going and going and going and going.
Sure.
And
Sure. And
yeah, I can't.
Yeah, but I can't say thank you to both of you, showing the appreciation, because I have these talks weekly to sit up and talk to a coach or professional or whatever. I don't think the message gets there. I think what you two young men have been able to voice, I think it gives a clearer message of that stepping stone, and we're going to get into that, the stepping stone to become a professional in the sport that you choose, because there's only well, family and friends, but there's only one person that can make it happen, and that's the two guys I'm looking at right here. We're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk more. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
And welcome. Connor, when you look at your sport, you always, as young people, we always idolize somebody who we want to kind of replicate what they've been able to accomplish in their sport and so forth. Who would that person be for you in the sport of cycling?
I mean, I got a lot of cyclists that I like and watch, but I don't know. I mean, Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, those are two guys that are so much better than most of the people they ride against at many different disciplines as well. So it's crazy. It's cool to see how dominant one athlete can be, especially in cycling, when the saying always goes, the best person in cycling doesn't always win.
Right.
But they seem to win quite a lot. So
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, you have a point. They always say, but again, on a given day, if somebody put their head down, a lot could change. Now, when you compare, when you would have gotten started in the sport, and whoever was the number one cyclist in road racing in the world for you? Because I know you're a student of the sport, so you're going to look for names. You're looking for times. You're looking for challenging courses. I that much I know about you. So when you would have taken this sport seriously, what did you think you had to do to be as close as you could possibly, humanly possibly, to get to that number one cyclist?
Well, train a lot, race a lot, gain as much experience as fast as you can, and there's no better way to race to gain experience than to race with people better than you. I mean, even just when I first started riding, just the coffee ride. I don't know if you've heard of our coffee ride we have on Saturday mornings, but
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
I thought that was a big challenge. And every week when I first started, I was just trying to get dropped further and further into the ride. And like guys like Dom, they would teach me. I still remember him yelling at me on the front when I was doing something wrong. He still does it to this day, all the new guys, but hey, they learn it quick.
Happened on Sunday, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, not that. It's just like, oh yeah, I guess it did happen on Sunday. Dom was giving pointers to one of his young teammates about what to do.
Right.
Even while he's racing for the win, he's still helping out people
Mhm.
that are coming up in the sport. So that's always cool to see. But yeah, just gaining experience, racing, training.
Sure.
That's one way to get to that level.
Mm. I'm gonna Can you hear me, Daniel?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Okay. There's some feedback. Okay. So Daniel, when you would have gotten into the sport, who can you remember who the male number one player was when you would have first gone to the Nadal school? What was it, when you was 11?
I think it has to be Roger Federer. Has to be. Because I remember since young, I used to watch motivational videos of him nearly every morning. And I remember his game, his technique was so flawless, was so smooth, perfect. And I just watched him play and looked like he was doing magic on the court, honestly. And then looking at Rafa playing, him controlling, dominating the clay, fighting, just giving everything he's got, and just like every point, every match. And just these two, I think, were the most dominant at that time. Also, Andy Murray, I want to add. So I was looking up to mostly these three, I want to say. And then obvious to the, informal, like Dustin Brown with the serve and volleys, Gail Monfils with the talent, the showsmanship, or like just like that.
Yeah. So here you are in this academy that's got Rafa Nadal all over it. But then you see the talent of someone like Federer and a few others. How do you keep all that emotion? And you're a young man, so I people talk about Bermudians and not glamour shy. Don't rush these big name people and allow them to be who they are. But here you are, a young man, and you got world number one, world number two, and possibly world number three at your disposal. So how do you control that in this academy?
So obviously, yes, there will be plenty of times when Rafa was playing Roger Federer, and then the players' lounge where everyone would just come and huddle will be divided, sides for Federer, sides for Rafa, because you just knew that it was going to be the best match you could watch. So honestly, I want to say for me, looking up at these guys, I try to take little things from each different person. Federer being just the smoothness of his game, just the flawless, just the effortless, even though he looks like it's Rafa with the forehands, every ball gonna hit back cross out whereas an opponent, or Novak Djokovic, the footwork with his ability just to move on the court. I try and take little things from little people's games and try and add it to mine in general.
Sure. And what I'm going to do now, as we get ready to close, I'm going to ask you both to offer some advice to a young person, Connor to a cyclist, Daniel to a tennis player, or in general, who has ambitions of trying to become a professional in their sport. what would your advice be? Because you're still on the stepping stones of achieving that goal, but the road behind you has been long. And I'm going to start with you, Daniel.
My advice to any up and coming tennis players in Bermuda that are, looking to me for like inspiration as I lead them, as I try and pave the way for them as they follow me to get older. Um, Treat the sport with respect. Tennis is an amazing game. It will take you amazing places. But always remember that you're very lucky to be playing this sport. You're very lucky to be flying around to all these different countries. And so, yeah, but also it's to commitment as well. As I said earlier, show commitment, show so that this is what you want to do. Put the extra work in. Stay home, extra nights to get extra sleep, stretch afterwards, do the little things. And yeah, that's all I can say is do the little things, and those little things will come a long, long way. And that's the best thing I can.
Connor, for you, what advice would you give?
I would say to any young cyclists coming up, no matter what age they start at, it's not a quick process. You have to put in the time if you want to go far, and basically just be a sponge. Like anyone who is better than you or has more experience than you, anything you can learn from people who have been through it and know what they're doing, take it from them and listen to what they say, because that's going to help you go far. And just try and get out there, race, try and get overseas, because that's the way to do it. That's how every athlete out of Bermuda has to go away to make it in the sport. And yeah, just take the opportunities when you get them.
Now that we're coming to the end of the year 2022, we're going through this COVID pandemic. We're going through. What would be your message? And I'm going to start with you, Connor, to Bermuda to kind of rally around your sport, because I'm asking you to speak as a representative of your sport, not just you, because we could all talk for ourselves. But I think if you're an advocate for the sport, this is the time that I think Connor White can actually gain some more interest. It could be financial, it could be, materialistic, it could be something. So what would your message to Bermuda be for the sport of cycling in 2023?
Bermuda's got a lot of up-and-coming cyclists, a lot of people that are interested in cycling. That means there's a lot of new people out on the roads, and especially since the pandemic, people on the roads don't seem to be too fond of us. So I'd say, these kids that are going around, especially, I'm one of them. We are on the roads to become professional athletes, trying to become professional athletes. We're not trying to, we're just out there training. We want to be better. So I would hope that these drivers can be a bit more careful around us. There's been way too many close calls. You see on Sunday, it wasn't a close call. He got hit.
Yeah.
And there's been way too many. I've had to knock on a car to tell them they're about to hit me because they're moving into our group. I think Bermuda just needs to slow down and be more respectful to people using the roads, because it's not just them.
Daniel, an opportunity to speak on behalf of the sport of tennis for 2023.
Tennis for 2023 in Bermuda. I honestly, as I came back and I saw all these kids training, Coral Beach, Southampton, with Gavin Manders, Neil Tulson, Tree Simmons, all these players, they're just loving the sport. They're loving the game. They're just going out there happily, spending as long as they need to on the court. And honestly, it makes me smile. But I want to say, with what Gavin's doing at Southampton, at South P, I'm expecting big things coming from the younger generation, 12, 11s, 10s as they go play in Dominican and Guatemala or Ecuador, all these different places that they're going. I think that they're really shocking the other countries. I think when they go and they compete, and from Davis Cup moving up from Group 4 back to Group 3, a big thing. So I think right now for tennis in Bermuda, it's just an ongoing, just like evolving. I think it's just evolving really, and all the players coming from outside, bringing back their knowledge and giving it around to each kid just to give him a better chance when he goes. It's just amazing. Expecting big things at Davis Cup.
Well, I personally want to thank the both of you for joining me on this IslandStats.com sports show this evening and enlightening people that are behind you, wanting to become professionals, hoping to become professionals, but you're giving them an understanding that, Connor, you said it doesn't happen overnight. Daniel, you said it. It's a process. It's a long, drawn-out process. But it's the joy, it's the reminiscing of the ride. The ride is the key. You never forget who you are. Never forget where you come from. And if you have a setback, build it stronger, better. I wanted to say, because you guys are a bit too young, but we used to be able to watch this show called The $6 Million Man, and they had a slogan on that: bigger, stronger, better. And I think with what you guys have been able to do in your careers thus far, I honestly believe that you will be bigger, stronger, better in 2023. And I want to thank you very much for your time this evening, and good luck. Season's
Season's greetings. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.